All right, good morning, everyone. As you all know, before we get the meeting started, what we do is do several proclamations for different groups or people in the community who we'd like to honor. I'm going to go ahead and get us started. If I can get Rogerio Valencio and Cristina da Silva. You all can either come to the table or the podium, wherever you feel more comfortable. Hey, good morning. So I want to explain why I'm honoring these individuals. It's actually proclamations that I'm presenting to a special group that's been here in New Orleans, making quite an impact. After many years of living in the States and teaching Afro-Brazilian martial art and dance to the New Orleans community, folks that you see here are actually going back to Brazil, is what I've learned. The city council's former chief of staff, David Gavlinsky. We love David so much. We truly miss him and his family. They moved about, I guess I want to say about a year ago, but David, he was actively involved with this group and underscored in his message to my office how you all have absolutely cultivated an extraordinarily unique and uplifting community, bringing together so many different kinds of people to learn this beautiful art form. He sent us a whole list of the impact that you all have made. The list is pretty long, but I am going to read pieces of it. You've taught more than 500 children and 300 adults. You performed at countless community festivals and events, including Jazz Fest, Ferret Street Festival, Bayou Boogaloo, Gentilly Fest, Hispanic Heritage Month celebrations, Zulu Social Aid and Pleasure Club Ball, and many others. You've fundraised to support free community classes for thousands of students and special needs children in Parana, Brazil. You've collaborated with local musicians such as Amigos do Samba, the Congo Square Sunday Drum Circle, and local drummer, Curtis Pierre. You participated in lecture series with the Tulane Mellon Graduate Program and Community Engaged Scholarship, and contributed to the creation of a documentary on this work through the Tulane History Department. So look, we are so thankful that you all have been here and the work that you have done. Would any of you all want to make any specific comments?
I have short remarks to deliver.
Sure.
Mr. Cocada and Professora Rosa are being honored. I'm actually just here to deliver some remarks. But my name is Annie Flanagan, and it is my honor to introduce Mr. Cocada and Professora Rosa of Archie Rivera Capoeira Group. They started this group here in New Orleans, where they've been teaching the Afro-Brazilian martial art of capoeira since 2006. Mestre and Rosa have cultivated a truly incredible community and really family that spans cultural, racial, and class barriers, and has established New Orleans as a destination for capoeiristas from all over the country and world. They've made an enduring contribution to the cultural heritage of the city through their work in the community by teaching kids and adults, and put simply, by connecting people through capoeira. So I just wanted to thank them for all their work and thank the council.
Thank you. Okay, so let me just read the proclamation real quick and we'll go down and take some photos. Would you like to say anything? ¿Estás bien?
I just want to say thank you so much, you guys, for having us here. And just say that I came from Brazil, and I had this dream of teaching capoeira. And today I can say that I'm gonna go back to Brazil and bring a lot of New Orleans to the programs that we have there. Because this city, receives me just the way that my city in Brazil did. In the past 16 years, it was an honor to be part of this city, culture, music, and everything that I think that was amazing combination with Brazilian culture, and it made a huge difference in my life.
Awesome. Would you like to say anything?
I just want to thank everyone. Thank you guys. I was born here,
Okay,
raised
great.
here,
Yeah.
grew up here. So my whole idea was that kids in New Orleans should have the opportunity to learn capoeira. And we moved here with that sole purpose. And yeah, I'm just glad that we were able to touch as many kids and adults, and that you guys are able to see that. So thank you.
Well, thank you so much. Any comments?
Just like to say thank you all for the contributions to the community that you made. And, you know, even though you're kind of leaving, let's make this a continuation, you know, that we have more exchanges, invite us to wherever we need to be, and certainly come back as often as possible. But we sometimes, you know, don't pay attention to people who have come, given of their talents, and then may have to go somewhere else afterwards, and you're going back. But thank you for those years, those many years. And we look forward to actually using this as a reason to stay more in touch. Let us know what's going on. Thank you and good luck and best to you.
Thank you. It's just such a beautiful art form, and it really is an art of movement and just amazing. So congratulations. And I look forward to your many contributions to New Orleans.
So let me read the proclamation. Be it proclaimed by the city of New Orleans that the council recognizes you for your unwavering commitment to sharing your love and passion for teaching with the New Orleans community. We wish you the very best of luck in your next chapter. Thank you. We'll go down right in front to take some photographs. Get over on this side, balance it out. Oh, sure, I can take it. Happy. Fall down. Thing on the back. Oh my God. All right.
Yes, I got the most people I could get in, but the critical is.
Thank y'all.
Oh, my favorite place to picture myself at. Great. Eugene, do you have any thoughts?
Morgan, y'all want to come up? Will you all introduce yourselves? Not that you need an introduction.
My name is Alex Tarnowski. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm Vice President of Survivor Services at STAR.
Morgan Lamondre, President and CEO of STAR, and my pronouns are she, her, hers.
Aisha Gibson, I'm the counseling director of STAR, and my pronouns are also she, her. Great, thank you. Again, you guys don't need any introduction. I think we all support STAR, Sexual Trauma Awareness and Response. And it's very fitting that you're here today because we're also taking up a CEA with the state to clear the backlog of rape kits that the NOPD has sitting up at the state lab. So I'm excited about that. I think that's going to go a long way to help survivors get the closure that they need and to solve some of the crimes that are still outstanding and out there, including people who are multiple violators and offenders. So as you know, April is Sexual Awareness Month. The work you do is amazing and you bring light to sexual violence and lift up survivors both through community and system-wide approaches through direct services. I know that you serve many individuals throughout the state, and that includes New Orleans. So I want to thank you personally for all the work that you do here. We heard harrowing stories of victims who aren't receiving the support that they need, and that was so touching to all of us. And so I'm glad that, again, we can try to support you and the work that you do today. I know the other council members want to say some words, but I'd love to hear from you all about the work that you're doing, how we can help, and what you see for the future.
So thank you, Councilmember Harris, especially for all of your support. There are other council members who have supported us through the grants that the city council has been able to provide to us. So we appreciate the support because the truth is we are not able to do what we do without financial support. There is still no specific state funding for sexual assault centers, which is not common. Many other states have specific funding. So we do depend on locals and foundations, and every grant that we can absolutely go after, we do. But as you probably are aware, whenever we feel like we've solved one issue, we peel back the layer of an onion and another issue, unveils itself, and things that we thought were once solved, dealing with billing of forensic medical exams, another issue, comes up again, dealing with those same issues. So, we are here for survivors. We provide all of our services to survivors absolutely free of charge. That includes counseling. And when we say counseling for STAR, I like to just clarify about what our counseling is. It is therapy. We have licensed therapists who are trained in various modalities, including EMDR, which is one of what people pay for that service is pretty high. And I don't want to get into the weeds of that because I do have my counseling director who could get into that. But although the services at STAR are free, the quality is not such that you would think is free. I would say we're complete experts in our field. And, the survivors that we see in New Orleans in particular have different needs from our other locations. And so we appreciate all that you support, for STAR, and we just hope that you can continue to stay with us, and we're very excited that you will be visiting us. We are housed within your district, our office, so we're very excited for your visit, and I'll let my coworkers.
We try to identify issues that our survivors are encountering and then come up with a solution to support them. And we know that for a lot of our survivors, if their basic needs aren't being met, then they can't do the work to heal from what happened to them. And through incredibly generous support from City Council, we are able to fund our Survivor Financial Assistance Program, which we started several years ago. And it fills the gaps of what is needed. So in our state, the Crime Victims Reparation Fund cannot be used for certain things such as stolen items or basic needs. And so through the support that we've received from the City Council, we're able to pay electric bills because survivors weren't able to go to work after their assaults. We are able to buy a replacement bicycle for a survivor after their perpetrator stole it, and that was their main way of transporting, getting around the city. And we know that we couldn't do this work without that continued support. And I just want to say thank you for that.
Well, with your support, my team is able to provide effective
treatment to survivors. No one survivor is the same. And so we have to pull definitely from different modalities, different skills, to meet the survivor where they are and make sure that, you know, we can be that good support for them and definitely be there for them along their healing journey, no matter how long that it may take. Because depending on where they are in their journey, you know, they may require a little more assistance, a little less assistance. But it's amazing to be there with them, to see how they come in, their journey throughout, and definitely where they end up. So thank you.
And just one more thing though, that Aisha, you know, she's like, I thought I was here as a supporting role because that's what counselors do. But we have a lot of interns from the colleges around us. And so we're really also serving as a training point for those who will be treating further trauma survivors, because that is one thing. We need to build community capacity in order to help provide these services to survivors.
I think that's important, especially culturally competent
Yes.
counselors,
Yes.
right? Because we do have a different population. We do have different folks. You know, it's just so important, the work that you do. And it's sad that our state can't support it. But I know that we are dedicated to work with our New Orleans coalition to try to get some funding, although we are a blue dot in a red state. But I'm happy to continue to support you as much as I can. I know the other council members are as well. And they would like to speak. So I'll start with Eugene and then head this way before I read the proc.
I just want to thank you all for your work. It is so important, and too often survivors and victims are just forgotten. I'm pleased to work with an organization that I kind of helped found called Voices of the Victims of Crime. And it's so important that persons who have been victimized and who are survivors come together and talk and communicate and also advocate for resources and recognition, because it's easy to forget survivors and victims. They're not clamoring for a lot of attention, if you will, because they have needs that they have to have met. So every bit of work that you all do is so important to building our stronger community. And the money that we've made available is money that's very well spent in an area that we need to focus on a little bit more. We know that we have monies that we spend on real estate and economic development and all of those kind of activities, but providing support and sources of resources for our survivors and victims of crime is an important moral thing that we do. So thank you all for the work that you do, and we're going to continue to do more and continue to ask and let us know what we need to do to work in this very important area. But once again, thank you for your work.
Thank you, Councilman Harris, for doing this today. I don't think I need to, I've known Star forever. I've known Morgan forever. I would like to say unequivocally that without Star, many of the legislative victories that have been had for sexual assault victims and victims of trauma would never have happened, because Star's advocacy is tremendous. They are throughout the state of Louisiana. They're always advocating for the rights and needs of victims of crime, particularly sexual assault. But I want to say they're also a great group that holds and pushes for accountability for when government or institutions fail. There would not have been that tremendous investigation of the serial rapist, the college serial rapist who was roaming the state, going from college to college withdrawing, but for Star doing the legwork to track and find this person and illustrate that despite all of our efforts to try and prevent perpetrators from escaping justice in higher education, institutions continue to shield them and allow them to maneuver around the state and exploit the system and abuse victims. And any help we can give to y'all to make your advocacy and your impact greater, just ask, because the results speak for themselves. You guys have done such tremendous work. I've been so grateful and humbled to have worked with you so long. In all honesty, I was on their board for a lengthy period of time. I'm only off the board because of my new position, but they are a fantastic organization, and I'm so happy that y'all are here today.
Where do I even start? You know, such a long history with Star, same as I almost called you Senator Morrell, just because of all the work that we did with Star in the legislature. Morgan, you crafted probably one of the most important pieces of legislation that I ever authored in my life. And that was when we revamped how victims of sexual assault are treated in the state of Louisiana. And we did that back in 2015. We did that with, working with insurance companies, working with hospitals, working with everybody from the Sheriff's Association to the state police, to the hospital association, to even working with the Jindal administration. I mean, we brought in everyone to try to get this done. And it was a really heavy lift. I remember the bill, being, super thick. And it was a victory when we passed it. And we thought that things were moving in the right direction. And it is amazing to me that now, 8 years later, we have people trying to nitpick at it and trying to eliminate some of the protections that we had in that particular piece of legislation. So let me speak about what that is, because I'm about to send a letter to the Victims Reparations Board about this. So in our legislation, first of all, we had said that victims of sexual assault shall not receive bills for the forensic medical exam, the FME, or any of the procedures associated with the FME. And that was super clear, and then we had put in the legislation that there would be, and we put what an FME, would include in the different procedures, but we had put in the legislation that, look, maybe there's something we didn't think of, and there could be a cap of $1,000 of something we didn't think of, because we covered everything down to Tylenol, okay, down to the medications that a victim could not be charged for, okay. Now, 8 years later, the Victims Board of Reparations is saying that the overall amount of money that a victim of sexual assault can be reimbursed for it can only be $1,000, capped at $1,000. Now, everyone else can apply for a lot more money, but they're saying that now this legislation seems to be some type of problem or an issue. They are absolutely interpreting this incorrectly. Absolutely. We knew what that cap was only associated with the FME. Anything else aside from that, whether they need additional counseling, whether they need physical therapy, whether they need an additional surgery, they can apply for as much funding as needed, as much as the board will provide to them without this $1,000 cap. And so it's just been incredibly frustrating to see that the folks at STAR are having to go fight this battle again because somebody is mad that victims of sexual assault are getting paid too much money for the injuries that they've received. I mean, what a horrible message that sends to victims of sexual assault in the state of Louisiana. What a horrible message the Victims Board is sending to victims of sexual assault in the state of Louisiana. They had no problem. They had no problem with with how this bill was written until now. So I don't know who put, this burr, over there with them, but it's something that needs to be rectified, fixed. I'm going to be sending them a letter as the lead author of that legislation as to, why they've decided now to misinterpret how they're reading this bill. But thank you for flagging this issue, for bringing it to my attention, and fighting for victims and saying that this is not right. I mean, that would be such a travesty if the Victims Board decided to cap all payouts to victims of sexual assault at just $1,000. It'd just be unbelievable. So once again, you're always in the fight. I appreciate you all so much. I will always continue to support you all. Thank you, Morgan, for being such a resource to me, when it comes to legislative matters or when I just need to understand, some parameters around any type of law dealing with victims of sexual assault. You are always available early morning, late at night, and I very much appreciate that. So thank you all for what you do.
Thank you all. I'm going to read it's a big old proclamation, but I'll read the most important part. The New Orleans City Council recognizes Sexual Trauma Awareness and Response, STAR, for addressing sexual violence as a public health problem, challenging attitudes and beliefs within our culture, and ensuring that every survivor of sexual violence has the right to confidential and competent services regardless of their age, background, gender, race, ethnicity, ability, sexual orientation, gender identity, or decision to report. The city of New Orleans is better because of your efforts. May success attend all the positive works you endeavor on this day and all to come. And I just, again, want to personally thank you, and you hear us supporting you. Ask for whatever you need. Thank you. We'll come down and take some photos.
Look at it.
Thanks again for your help earlier, getting that banged out before the start of the meeting. For my mental health. Yep. Joseph, oh, that balance is out so much.
Yes. Morning, Tab. Can I go over this with you? Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. We're going to get started. Please take your seats. All right. Let's see where everybody gets situated.
Hello. How are you?
I'm doing fine. Like to handle the businesses.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. We're going to get started. Madam Clerk, whenever you're ready.
Good morning. Roll call. Councilmember Thomas. Councilmember Green.
Present.
Councilmember Morrell.
Here.
Councilmember Moreno.
Present.
Councilmember King. Councilmember Harris. Councilmember Jeruso.
Present.
We have 5 members. We have a quorum.
Thank you. We will get started with the invocation by Pastor Weathersby.
I'm sorry.
Let's stand and bow our heads as we look to God. Father, we thank you for another glorious morning that you've given to us. We're so grateful for all of your many blessings that you bestow on us. We're grateful for your grace and your mercy. And today, Lord, we ask that you will grant this council with wisdom, that you will give them the ability to lead. Pray to God that you will allow our city to be better because of what takes place in here today, Father. We give you all the glory, the honor, because we know that it belongs to you. You said in your word that unless we look to you, everything that we do will fail. So we look to you today for guidance, for direction, and we ask that you will bless it. And we pray this prayer in the name of Jesus, and all of the saints of God said, amen.
President Moreno will do the pledge.
Oh, say, can he see? What's up? Who's got stripes and
Actually, your situation is so bad. Yeah. The pregame can't go for a lot.
We have the approval of the minutes, March 2nd, 2023, a special meeting, March 8th.
I will move for approval. I've moved, Lisa, Councilman Moreno seconds.
I need you to vote, council member.
Five yeas, no nays, the minutes are adopted.
We have a specials order of business. The first order of business is a presentation, mental health collaborative update. Speaking Mary Ambrose, LMSW, and Melissa Meza, LMSW of United Way of Southeast Louisiana. Discussion of progress of mental health collaborative.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Members, you'll remember back in September, made a lengthy presentation about mental health and desire to build out a mental health collaborative. And with the help of United Way and partners like Dr. Dunham with Metropolitan Human Service District, we now have been at it for over 6 months and we have an update. And I think it's important if the collective we commit to something that we show the public the process that's been made. So with that, I turn the floor over to Dr. Dunham and Melissa and Mary. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. On behalf of United Way, we're really excited to be here today to give an update. We were really excited to join with Councilman Garuso and Dr. Rochelle Head Dunham to bring this collaborative together. And we're really excited about it. So I'm going to turn it over to them to give the update.
Thank you, Paul.
And I just want to say on behalf of our president and CEO, Michael Williamson, he had already had his vacation scheduled, but he sends his regards and regrets that he couldn't be here today.
Good morning.
Good morning.
And thank you again for this opportunity to come before you to talk about this very important issue of mental illness in our community. We're going to go over several slides, which will bring you up to date with where we are currently in our project. And thanks to Councilman Garuso, my co-chair and convener of many of these meetings. So what you have before you is the list of milestones that we have accomplished over the last few months, beginning in September, with the initial convening and presentation here at the City Council on the relevance of creating a mental health collaborative and securing co-chairs to do that work. And then in October, we had our first membership meeting where we submitted an application to SAMHSA to support some of the funding that was necessary for our work, particularly for the mental health first aid work. And then in November, our first steering committee meeting recruitment began. December, we were actually awarded SAMHSA grant in the amount of $1.9 million. We had our first mental health steering committee meeting in January. February, we identified our mental health collaborative focus areas. And March was our first SAMHSA recast grant partner meeting, which we will share more information with you about. So regarding the mental health collaborative, our emphasis is based upon the collective impact model. And the collective impact model is grounded in several ideals. First of all, bringing together people in a structured way to achieve social change. Secondly, it is a network of community members, organizations, and institutions who advance equity by learning together, aligning, and integrating their actions to achieve population and systems level change. And also it implements 5 conditions with equity practices incorporated throughout. A common agenda, a shared measurement, mutually reinforcing activities, continuous communication, and backbone organizationally.
Yeah.
Our backbone of the collaborative is based upon this structure, which includes co-chairs, steering committee members, advisory board members, and just general members. Each of the roles of those various subdivisions of the structure of the collaborative have responsibilities such as co-chairs leading and making sure that the planning, development, and ongoing consensus building is moving progressively. The steering committee, however, is very important in working closely with us, Councilman Giarrusso and I as co-chairs, to help establish a common vision and to help with the direction and guidance and to make sure that whatever we decide that we want to do actualizes into actual change for our community, government officials, and potential funders. And then, of course, there's always a need for an advisory board to keep you on task. And then, of course, members who or help with the collaborative's passion and vision for what we profess to be the professional role we want to serve in this community network of individuals working with mental health. The leadership is structured as such. Again, Councilman Joe Giarrusso and I serve as co-chairs. But our steering committee members represent a number of different professional areas and are 13 in number. So we have academia represented, addiction, business, city government, community-based organizations, disabilities, faith-based organizations, foundations, funders, philanthropic, Hispanic, Latinx, insurance, LGBTQ+, and lived experienced individuals. The listing on the screen now is the members of our leadership by name who represent the various subcommittee sections that I just went over. You can see in the far left column a number of those names that are probably recognizable to you because many of them have served in very influential roles in the community and have been impactful in their own right. So this is an important slide because at the end of the day, the question is, well, what is the collaborative trying to do? The collaborative's primary area of focus is to really coordinate care because care is pretty diverse and dispersed and often unknown to caregivers who is doing what. And so our goal is to coordinate care so that there is access to care. And in achieving access, we will be using community-based partners. We'll be looking at in the importance of insurance on the public, private, and underinsured sector to make sure that none of those are barriers to care. The other important component of the end goal of coordination of care is building capacity. Capacity building also takes into mind the cultural relevance of the various groups that are represented, as well as those of us who come from various different cultures, and using that to inform how we impact people's lives. And then because trauma is so pervasive in mental health and mental illness, we have to put it front and center as a component of care as well as training. And then finally, a needs assessment. How do you know what you really are working with if you haven't assessed the problem? And on 3 levels, we're going to be doing a needs assessment of youth with emphasis on trauma, of youth and with emphasis on their general behavioral health needs, and of course, the various components of need for adult populations.
Thank you, Dr. Head Dunham. So at this time, I'm going to be going through details and specifics about the recast grant that we secured from SAMHSA. It is a 4-year grant. We requested $1 million each year for 4 years. We were in fact able to secure the first 2 years, and upon which at the end of the second year, we can request the second 2 years of this grant. So for us, the name of our recast grant is Resolve, Resilient Equitable Systems for Overcoming Loss and Violence Everywhere. So the goal of our Resolve grant is to fund programs that would focus on serving youth and families living in communities of chronic poverty, most impacted by collective trauma and community violence. We are partnering with a number of community-based organizations and collectives throughout the city. The service providers, and these are individuals who are actually providing the service delivery. So you have those partners who are actually going into the schools and will be providing first aid mental health. They are also providing trainings to community providers, community individuals, anyone who has a connection with a kiddo. They're going to be training them so that they're able to create supportive and helpful environments for these kiddos as they are able to breathe again, frankly. Then we have our community advisory board. It's made up of 13 community-based organizations throughout the city, and they're going to be our voice for the youth. So what do they see on the ground? What would they like to see more of? What are the obstacles? And the community advisory board will have a fund of $75,000 to fund other nonprofits or other entities who they feel are doing a fantastic job, but they just need to increase capacity. So they will have their own pool of dollars to then fund each year as well. We will also have an evaluator that's going to be testing and reviewing all of our data, and we have yet to identify who that's going to be. We're very excited about the collateral that we've been able to secure within the last 6 months. We have a dedicated homepage to the Mental Health Collaborative that's on the unitedwaycla.org website. We also have a one-pager that can be distributed to anyone. It can be shared electronically as well as a hard copy. And then we actually created a bi-monthly newsletter, and this is for members and partners. And this is just to keep the communication flowing. As you may recall with Dr. Head Dunham's presentation, one of the elements of the collective impact model was frequent communication. And so this is our approach to that, making sure the energy is going and everyone is on board. So next steps for us, we are in the process of hiring a project director for the Resolve grant, as well as a coordinator. And we're also in the process of hiring a consultant that would not only assist with the Resolve grant, but also with the collaborative as it continues to develop and evolve. And then on the side of the Mental Health Collaborative itself, it's really looking at the advisory boards for the focus areas and really identifying our plan of attack for each of those areas that have been identified. And fundraising, because none of this is going to happen without money. So that is going to be another an advisory board that's going to fund and fuel this work that we're going to be doing. And that actually concludes our presentation, but.
So we will entertain any questions if you have any.
Councilmember, I'm just going to go from Councilmember Thomas across. So starting with Councilmember.
Well, first of all, thank you guys. The three ladies at the table have been, when you talk about social justice, giving back, and social science of our community, no matter where it is, have been leaders in that area. And I appreciate all of the work. Dr. Dunham, you know, the last time you and I spoke on air, first of all, I mean, shout out to Equity Media and WBOK for starting this public conversation on mental health that everybody seems to be part of now. But several years ago, we started a segment, Mentally Speaking, and having a conversation on mental health that focused on the Black community, but also overall general mental health, and thank you for starting that public conversation. The last time you and I talked on this station, I asked you a question about the public conversation and the fact that mental health was trending. But we see the policy components and resources to match the trend or to match the public trend? And then you said no. Of course, I'm in a different role now. Where are we now that we see political bodies starting to adopt and Councilmember Giarruso's leadership in this area? Where are we now and where do we see it going? Because when I asked you a year and a half ago, you said that the resources and the policy initiatives did not match the public conversation.
And thank you for that question, because it's at the core of why there is, I think, so much paralysis around mental health and mental health movement. So in terms of where are we now, we don't have the workforce that's necessary to literally wrap its arms around the magnitude of the mental health problem. Because we have two groups now. We have the traditionally impaired people who we customarily do the best we can to take care of with waiting lists. And now, because of the circumstances that are impactful to everybody, climate control, the political scene we're in now, we have more of the worried well people now who are knocking on the doors for professional help. And so we really are struggling to keep our heads above water as a professional group to do this work. So there is a component of this that has to look at the role of community in supporting this. And one of the things you'll hear me saying, or may have heard me say, is that when you look at EMS data, only about 30%, they'll say 10% of those calls really require professional intervention. Most of those calls require someone who can really de-escalate and help people talk through what is often perceived as a crisis and is, but is not at the level of needing a professional intervention. So training communities to do a baseline level of intervention work is so critical, because we don't have the professional capacity. And it is, but it isn't a money issue. And I'll say that because we got a lot of money from the feds for the opioid crisis, for example, and look at where we are with deaths and so forth. So what are we offering to people that they really want? And I'm thinking that what we are offering is really not quite what people want, even when we have capacity to do it. And then if it is what they want, we're not offering enough of it.
And the last part of that is that frequently you and I, we would talk about the community-based professionals, the social scientists and the groups who, though they like resources, they did this work, as well as the institutions to produce professionals who are qualified. Since this effort, and now that it's public, are we being strategic and intentional about strengthening some of those agencies, those smaller agencies that do the work, as well as encouraging universities to develop more capacity in that area?
Yes, the coordination of care effort is about that.
Okay.
It's about bringing to the table all of the infrastructure that's behind the scenes, doing the work, struggling to do it in fledgling capacities, often because they just don't have the financial means to do a better job. So bringing everything we have to bear into the forefront, and also paying attention to our youth and helping our youth to get seated in this direction, because mental health treatment is not glamorous, and it is not a profession that many people even think about, because it's not, the PR and the marketing around it is just not there. And so if we can work with our young people beginning in high school and then college and then medical school and then resident, because all along the way, the message of mental health's importance is being lost. And so you see the youth incentive that's a part of this, that's intentional. The school board is on this committee, that's intentional, to begin to build the workforce, because you have to grow your workforce as you are moving through the process of change. And a lot of us are aging out, Councilman Thomas, and we need to be able to groom people to take this on as we move forward.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Green.
I'd like to thank you all for your work, and Councilman Giarruso for bringing us together again to discuss such an important issue. I don't really have a question other than to say that I look forward to the day when people are more comfortable talking about mental health. I mean, I think that we're still at that point where youth feel that they can't talk to anybody, and even adults feel that they can't talk to anyone about it because it's a stigma and because it's the subject of, it's the brunt of jokes and it's the brunt of things that aren't productive. So let us, certainly know how we can help, but to whatever extent that we can, to everybody who's involved, some of the incidents that we see, the school incidents, such as the one in, Nashville, for example, is somebody who seems to have been crying for help over social media, but didn't attempt to go and get the help from someone who could provide that. And I look forward to the day when, if someone feels that they're in the midst of a challenge, in the midst of a crisis, that they'll reach out, sometimes in different ways. I've had the, not necessarily an opportunity, but I've been involved with some incidents involving the police in my district where someone who was challenged at the time chose to stay in a house and not come out, and of course threatened the neighbors. In one instance, someone had a 9-month-old baby with them. But afterwards, in a couple of instances, by having someone to talk to at the health department or somewhere else, they were able to resolve those issues. And I think that there's resolution around the corner for persons if they go out and seek that assistance. And we as a society need to say that if you seek that assistance, that's not a stigma, that actually is a thing of valor that you have done. Absolutely. And to whatever extent that you can continue that, and to everyone who's involved with mental health, let's do everything that we can to eliminate completely the stigma of securing the help that you need at the time. And I could go into other stories that I know of people who have been involved with trauma, who have done things in a different direction than they would have done if they had sought out help. Let's just encourage everyone to seek help, and that it's a good thing to seek help.
Yes, I absolutely appreciate your comments, Councilman Green. I'll certainly say that with regards to stigma, it is so important that the community is educated and is a part of the team. Because when you're part of a team, you see it from a whole different level, which is why you'll hear me promote mental health first aid, for example, because that's an effort that the community, the average person can learn on how to manage a crisis, what to say, what to do, how to respond. The more you are in that, the more you understand that this is everybody's problem, and everybody at some point in time may have a challenge that needs some support. And to the comment about police will come, the national effort is to move away from 911 to 988. And the intentionality there is to put on the other side of the line a behavioral health trained person who can de-escalate and knows what to do, because they are part of the system that manages these types of issues pretty professionally. So even in your promotion of who to call, we have to move away from advising people to call 911 and to call 988 if you have a mental health or mental illness, substance use issue that needs to be addressed.
Yes, thank you.
Councilman Morrell.
Thank you. I don't have a tremendous amount to add. I'll give a couple of comments. I really want to thank Councilmember Jeruso for working with y'all and helping put this together. I think it's crucially important when you look at a lot of the underlying issues that plague our community. Many of them are tied to mental health. Even before COVID, when I look at my kids, for example, their experience in dealing with society and the public is so different and skewered from when I was a kid. I mean, just the instances as a parent where you see things like cyberbullying, where you see kids who, through their addiction to social media, for example, and their addiction to being elevated or liked or disliked or whatever it's going to be, they are inundated with social pressures beyond when school ends. And I mean, the toll that takes on kids and on their development, because their sense of self-worth is tied to unrealistic expectations and the judgment of people they'll never meet. I mean, it's completely bizarre and crazy, but it's one of those things where I'm sure as professionals, you see the new challenges you're going to face when these kids are adults and they're trying to figure out how to raise a family, how to have healthy relationships in person with people and the like. On top of that, when you look at the transition of post-COVID, just the socioeconomic pressures that are constantly influencing people, whether they're adults or children, and their decision making is really staggering. I mean, the more as a society, the more as a city, we can work together to address mental health, to remove the stigma of mental health treatment, because it is still, I mean, even in this modern society, people do not talk frankly about mental health and mental health needs. Yeah, I can tell you that as a young adult and as an adult, I've had therapy on occasion because it's necessary. Sometimes when you're struggling with something, you have to go talk to someone. And you'll find very few people, despite the fact they say that, oh, mental health is not stigmatized, they won't say that in public because they're afraid of how they'll be judged by it. And it's unfortunate because our behavior, our words are important, but our actions really dictate who we are. And the fact that adults in society still doesn't talk about treating your mental health as something that's normal, still, despite any effort, leaves it stigmatized. And it's just sad that if we as a society were more open and accepting of mental health services as an option before something occurs, we'd never get to that point. So I appreciate all the work y'all do in our community. I appreciate you working with us as government to try and find solutions. And I always appreciate groups that, rather than come to us just with the problem, they're like, here are the things we're going to work together to do to solve it. So thank y'all for being here today.
Thank you, President Morrell. Vice President Moreno.
Great to see all of you. Good morning, Dr. Dunham. So nice to see you again. We worked so many years together now. Councilmember Jeruso, thank you for your leadership on this. Very much appreciated and very needed. Mike, I have a question about a page on your presentation, and it's with the needs assessment. Explain to me more about how you all are going to be moving forward with the needs assessment for youth trauma, youth behavioral health, and also on the adult side. How long do you think it's going to take to do this needs assessment? I know that you have that grant. I think it was for $1.9 million. I mean, I'm just trying to understand, what type of resources you need to do the most robust needs assessment possible, so that we make sure that we're moving down the right path in the future.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Well, we're very fortunate that the needs assessment have been done within the last year or two. So we have current accurate data by the Louisiana Public Health Institute, by Tulane, by Coalition of Compassionate Schools. So all of our partners, either at the mental health collaborative level or with the RECAST grant, they all have data. In fact, Dr. Avis Williams of the NOLA Public Schools, she too has data specifically around trauma and specifically around the well-being for youth. There's also a number of data sets for adults. So I have a feeling that we may need to dig in a little deeper. And we do have funding for that was included in the RECAST grant. So that is something that, or the Resolve grant, I apologize. So that is something that will come to fruition, and SAMHSA is asking us to have it due by the end of June. So I believe that this is something that we're going to be able to turn around very quickly. Like I mentioned, a lot of agencies have done it very well. It's recent. And so it's just a matter of putting it all together and really coordinating all of the work that these individual entities have been doing.
This is so great that the data collection's already there.
I know.
Yes, that is so great. That's going to move things much faster. So that's fantastic. I think it would be great if in June, when you are able to very quickly put all of this together, I'd love to see the needs assessment presentation. I think that would be a very worthwhile presentation for this council, Joe, if that's okay with you. So once again, look, just thank you for your work. This is great coordination and collaboration at the end of the day, and it's greatly needed in our city. So I appreciate all of you.
Thank you. Councilmember Harris.
Thank you for being here today. Listen, we've been in meetings all week. And on Tuesday, we heard from a coalition talking about use of ARPA funds, and they focused on youth mental health issues. Yesterday, we heard from a grassroots organization talking about crime, United Front People's Assembly, and they also focused on youth trauma and PTSD, as well as adult trauma and PTSD. So I think all of New Orleans is really attuned to what's going on right now. I think especially after COVID, we've all done a self-assessment of our own mental health needs and what we need to even survive. And when you're scrambling for survival,
to make sure that you're okay. You know, your trauma is at you. So I applaud Councilmember Jeruso for his leadership. I applaud you for your leadership and all the work that you've done. And I look forward to the results of it. Thank you.
I wanted to say first, thanks to my colleagues. I appreciate all the thank yous, but really we don't do things in vacuums. We operate as a body. And so the ability to have this and to make sure that it's moving forward, particularly the funding that has been pledged to the United Way and to the collaborative as a result of the commitment of all 7 people who are up here. So their support has been invaluable. First to my co-chair, Dr. Dunham, I want to thank you for all your wonderful support and guidance and insights. I kind of wanted to start this up and go as fast as quickly as possible. And Michael Williamson and Mary actually walked me back and said, this is a bold, audacious principle, but we have to build a framework and we want to do it right. And that means doing things with data collection and taking our time, as Dr. Dunham talked about, building coalitions. And so thank you for reining me in, because I wanted to kind of, run the marathon before getting ready to start walking. And I think this walk work that you are doing right now, that we're doing right now, is so incredibly important. And I think it's important to thank not only all of our partners who Dr. Dunham and Melissa and Mary walked through today, but also make sure we recognize the city and their commitment as well. Particularly Dr. Avegno, who was a real champion of working with everybody on the SAMHSA grant. I know it's not usual for non-elected people to toot their horn, so I'm going to do it for the United Way and for Dr. Dunham, which is, I think the SAMHSA grant, Mary, had to be submitted how fast? How quickly did the SAMHSA application have to be submitted?
It was we had to submit it in 3 weeks.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is a super competitive federal environment that United Way, the city, the collaborative put together and secured these funds that are going to do resolve and recast. And I really can't give you enough credit for how quickly you did it. So I think what you see up here is faces of the community who represent people who are interested in seeing, as we talked about today, place-based care, continuum of care, how we use the data. And I heard Vice President Moreno invite you back as quickly as we have the data. So we look forward to hearing you again, and we welcome any closing words that you may have before we get to the next presentation.
Thank you, Councilman Jeruso, and to the entire City Council for your support, understanding, and recognition of the value of this work. We will report to you on an ongoing basis progress, and we are about action. What's the point in having conversations if nothing changes? And so we pledge that, and we need your support though to achieve some of those goals that we have in mind. But thank you again for this time this morning.
Thank you all so much. Thank you.
Right. I'll work with you on that. I'm not gonna let this one go. That's the biggest insult.
We're now on the third order of business, a presentation. Mary Claire Landry, Executive Director of the New Orleans Family Justice Center. Recognizing Mary Claire Landry, Executive Director of the New Orleans Family Justice Center on the occasion of her retirement.
Mary Claire, why don't you come on up to the table? You can bring whoever you'd like with you. Hey, Charmaine. No. Come on up, y'all. Well, first, let me just say that it's great to see all of you. This is a team I've got a long history with, as does Councilmember Morel with the historic domestic violence legislation that really started off our partnership and friendship back in 2014. And Mary Claire, I have to tell you, you just mean the world to me and to so many people throughout our city, in the community. You've helped so many people. You are truly God sent. Yes. And we all know that you used to be a nun. So it all kind of makes sense, you know?
Give out all my secrets later.
Exactly. So look, let me, for those who don't know Mary Claire, let me go through a little bit of her history. Mary Claire has been working with domestic violence survivors, really through her entire, career. Mary Claire, first, she was over at Catholic Charities, working with the Archdiocese from 2003 to 2012, where she really spearheaded the program's revival, working with domestic violence victims. And this was after Hurricane Katrina, when she really spearheaded the revival. She led efforts to rebuild services and to introduce systemic improvements for survivors of domestic violence and sexual abuse in New Orleans. During Hurricane Katrina, Crescent House, the state's first shelter for survivors of domestic violence, was burned to the ground. Upon returning to the city, Mary Claire moved operations of the shelter and reinstated services for people returning to the area. By partnering with the New Orleans Police Department's Domestic Violence Unit and through the urging and funding of the U.S. Department of Justice Office on Violence Against Women, a new system of coordinated response for victims of domestic violence and sexual assault was born. And that's the New Orleans Family Justice Center. And that is a center that many of us, of course, are very familiar with and has continued to grow and grow and grow under Mary Claire's leadership. The New Orleans Family and Justice Center is a partnership of agencies dedicated to ending family violence, child abuse, sexual assault, and stalking through prevention and coordinated response by providing comprehensive client-centered empowerment services in a single location since 2012. And Mary Claire has served as its executive director. And now Mary Claire has decided to retire. And so while we are so glad for you that you're moving on to your next chapter, you are going to be so missed. And I know that you're still going to be involved, but you're going to be so missed. And I just wanted to bring you before the council and for the public to see just how grateful we are for your decades of work and service to the people of the city, for all of the information that you brought us, for being such a strong fighter for survivors, for never giving up, for all of the nights that you lost so much sleep worrying about people who you cared for. All of that is recognized and noticed, and we love you for it, Mary Claire.
Thank you, sir.
I know that all members of the council are going to want to speak. We started that side, so let me start with Leslie, and we'll move over this way. Councilmember Harris.
I just want to say thank you for your years of service, commitment to victims, really, and elevating them in their stories. I was at the opening of the new center, which is beautiful and named after you. And it was just amazing to see everyone who supports you, everyone in the community. And I can't believe you're retiring, but you're not going far, right?
I'm not going for, I'm moving to more national work, because we get contacted all the time from all over the country, all over the world, really, on how do we do this in communities to really bring this collaborative effort. And so I will stay connected with the New Orleans Family Justice Center. It's my baby, it's my love. But I just feel like I have a larger role to play nationally. And I love to teach and I love to work with people who really want to figure this out. And I just think this framework is so important for helping communities to really figure out how to have the most comprehensive and effective response to keeping families safe. And it's just my dying belief that nobody should feel
not safe in their own home.
Yep.
And
Absolutely.
we just have to do better at this. So I'm not going away. I will, to my dying day, I will be an advocate for the voices of survivors. And I'm just really honored. Helena, thank you. I love you so much. And I'm just so grateful to the city council for funding us continually, for the state funding the work that we're doing to really have that access for victims. So thank you so much for supporting our efforts.
Councilmember Morrell?
Thank you. I've heard the saying, you really get to know someone when you're in a foxhole. And I can say definitively that you have been in so many foxholes with Helena and I and Baton Rouge over the years. It has been a complete pleasure and an honor working with you. You are unapologetic and uncompromising when it comes to protecting families. And though that seems like common sense, as you have seen repeatedly in government, common sense isn't often common. And the amount of times that we saw you in Baton Rouge with such raw emotion with families trying to explain to the legislature how our decisions have real consequences for the lives and livelihood of families, particularly women and children, and that inaction was worse than no action, really is what really shamed a lot of legislators into doing the right thing. Now, you had your henchwomen over there, Charmaine and Kim Sport, who would take poor legislators in their corner and beat them up to vote the right way, but we all knew they were there under your orders.
Under the, all the purple shirts.
That's right.
Yeah, when they saw the purple shirts coming.
But because of the work you've done, as Council Vice President Moreno said yesterday, we have some of the most aggressive domestic violence laws in the country. The biggest challenge, as you've seen, that's where coming back to local government, is enforcement. I mean, we can pass all the laws, tons of laws. I mean, we got the NRA to back down over taking guns from people who have protective orders, who are threatening to kill their families. And it's unfortunate that you guys still have to work daily across the state and even in New Orleans to make sure that those protective orders are enforced and people actually go and take the gun away from the person, because we've seen when you're in the middle of child custody battles or other things, emotions run high. And when you interject firearms into the mix, the outcomes are always bad. So I am so happy you're here today. I am not sad because I know you're still going to be fighting in a different capacity. And I'm sure everyone in the audience knows they're all still going to call you on a daily basis and tap your thoughts of knowledge over the years you've been here, but it's so well deserved. You've been such a tremendous leader in this field. And I look forward to continuing to work with you in whatever new role you're going to be in. Thank you.
Councilmember Green, followed by.
Mary Claire, thank you for your decades of work and your commitment to our fellow human beings. I was pleased to certainly be there for the ribbon cutting for